berdoa semoga hidayah dan barokah dari Allah Subhanahu wa taala memberikan kemudahan dan kelancaran kita dalam membangun ibu kota Nusantara ini.
It's President Joko Widodo's most ambitious project, moving Indonesia's capital to a remote location, 1,200 kilometers from Jakarta.
The idea of starting a city from scratch is always very interesting for many planners. It's like a utopia.
The eye of the global audience will be on us.
But with environmental and social concerns plaguing construction.
Nggak pernah ada solusi mengenai hal ini. Tiba-tiba dipasang aja, kita sendiri yang mempunyai tempat di sini kaget aja. Ada patok-patok seperti itu.
And just 1 year to Nusantara's inauguration, will Indonesia's new capital be ready? In Penajam Pasir Utara Regency, East Kalimantan Province, a project worth more than $30 billion is underway. Here is where Indonesia's new capital will be located, a city more than 3 times the size of Singapore. Indonesians call it Ibu Kota Negara, or IKN, meaning capital city. Its name is Nusantara. Target of completion for Nusantara? 2045, when Indonesia celebrates its centenary as an independent nation. But the first phase of the project is expected to be finished next year. And Bambang Susantono is the man in charge of making it happen.
As you can see here, on the far right there where you can see the crane, that is the presidential palace. And this one, the one that you can see like a strip here, if you imagine like the Washington Mall, right? So it's going to be a mall right here where we have several iconic sort of like places, like what we call the Bukit Bendera, and then there is some area of the Titik Nol and others. And it's a strip like that, and basically it's a green strip. And it will be sort of like the main sort of like axis of this Nusantara capital, where many of the strategic buildings will be located.
In March 2022, President Jokowi broke ground at Nusantara. And exactly 1 year from today, on August 17, 2024, President Joko Widodo will preside over the 79th anniversary of Indonesia's proclamation of independence from the Netherlands. And he wants to do it here, in Nusantara. By then, the presidential palace and several government ministries are expected to be completed.
And this is part of that. For example, here is the Istana, the palace, and then there is a couple of a government building here, right? There are also some demand to, for example, to develop some education town, to develop some research center, or perhaps a renewable area, the solar farm, for example.
The new capital is located in East Kalimantan, one of the 5 provinces which make up Kalimantan on the Indonesian side of Borneo Island. Kalimantan is home to 16 million people and 37 million hectares of tropical forest. At the moment, getting to Nusantara is not that straightforward. From Jakarta, it's a 2-hour flight to Balikpapan, East Kalimantan's oil and commercial center. Then, another 2-hour drive past villages, forests, and palm oil plantations. But there is a reason this location is chosen.
This is in the middle of, you open the map of the Indonesia, right? So that's why this site is chosen, right? And because of that, I think that this is ideal places also to showcase that we can really build something that in harmony, again, between the people, nature and culture, and also be part of the global campaign. Yeah?
With the clock ticking, The pressure is on Bambang and his team to have Nusantara ready for its inauguration in exactly 1 year's time. The question on people's minds, will Nusantara be ready?
We do hope that by 17th of August 2024, we're going to have some sort of like an ecosystem that consisting of the palace, you can see the palace right there, and then a couple of ministerial offices. Not only that one, not only offices for the government, but also what we call the amenities or the facilities for those who would like to move here as the pioneer. So that consisting of, for example, education facilities, hospital, even mall, for example. And it's not big, but it's enough for ecosystem to show that, yes, this is the first step of the next step that we are going to undertake.
Currently, 36 houses for government ministers are beginning to take shape. Civil servants are expected to be the first of Nusantara's residents.
We are on the track in terms of development progress. As you can see, each of the physical constructions has their own progress. For example, on the dam, it has been above 90%. So on in all, we are still on the track to achieve the first target on 2024, especially on the 17th of August.
But why does Indonesia need a brand new capital? The prospective city is meant to alleviate the pressures on the current capital, Jakarta.
Faktanya bahwa hari ini itu penduduk Jakarta ada sekitar 10 juta. Kemudian itu adalah sekitar 3,9% ya dari populasi seluruh penduduk Indonesia. Kemudian pendapatan domestik regional brutonya itu adalah sekitar 3.200 triliun atau sekitar 16,6% dari PDB di Indonesia. Tapi secara umum kita bisa lihat bahwa problematik yang kasat mata terlihat itu adalah masalah kemacetan, kemudian masalah banjir, dan masalah tata ruang yang tidak dikelola dengan baik.
But the construction of Nusantara is not without controversy. But the site is not a bare piece of land. There are villages scattered in the area. Pandi, his wife and 4 children live in a Sepaku village named after a nearby river. They were alarmed when boundary markers appeared one day.
Nah ini kita sendiri belum tahu, cuman ini tiba-tiba terpasang begitu saja di samping rumahnya orang. Ya ini tidak pernah ada sosialisasi mengenai hal ini. Tiba-tiba dipasang aja, kita sendiri yang mempunyai tempat di sini kaget aja ada patok-patok seperti ini.
The small yellow piece of cloth attached to the markers have development boundary written on them. 800 meters away, the Sepaku Dam is being built. The resulting reservoir will provide water to Nusantara. But Pandi thinks the 200 villages here will be displaced by the dam.
Ya reaksi kita cuman jadi tanda tanya aja, untuk apa ini? Jadi kemungkinan ya kita berpikir, wah ini bakal menggusur pemukiman yang ada. Jadi ya sempat melakukan perlawanan, membuat spanduk.
Building a city from scratch will be an expensive endeavor, over $30 billion, though this could be a fraction of the final price tag.
The initial figures that we got from the National Development Planning Agency is about $33 billion. Yeah. But to be honest with you, I feel that this is still very small. And we are going to go beyond that one, of course. And we are going to use more on the cooperation or public-private partnership or private finance initiative, because we want also the private sector be part of this development process. Yeah?
Part of this budget is meant for land acquisition. But Pandi, who owns a hectare of farmland, says there have been no discussions about compensation so far.
Ya kalau untuk pembangunan IKN ya silakan tetap berjalan. Cuman kami tolonglah diperhatikan juga dari pihak pemerintah, beri kami legalitas yang jelas agar untuk keberlanjutan anak cucu kami ke depan.
Bambang says the authorities are aware of the issues raised by the villagers. from compensation to lack of information. He has promised to address them.
For those who are affected, we also would like them to be part of, for example, a good relocations. Yeah? Meaning that if we relocate them, we want them to be better off rather than worse off, right? So again, I treat them as my brother and sister. This is my citizens, and we would like them to be really part of the development process of this Nusantara.
And there are other pressing issues that the government will have to address before Nusantara's unveiling in a year. As the skeleton of the new presidential palace in Nusantara takes shape, 20 kilometers away lies Sepaku village in Penajam Pasir Utara Regency.
Tanah leluhur di sini sejak zaman dulu kala, sebelum NKRI juga suku Balik sudah mendiami di sini. Ya. Jadi kami secara turun-menurun sudah tinggal di sini.
60-year-old Sibukdin is the tribal elder in this village, home to around 100 families. He's also the spiritual leader. For decades, they've had to compete with migrants who come to Kalimantan to seek new opportunities.
Wilayah ini kan sebenarnya sekitar tahun 72 ya Bang ya, ini khususnya yang di sekitar Sepaku, di Kabupaten Penajam Pasir Utara, itu kawasan ini sekitar tahun 70-an awal sudah menjadi wilayah transmigrasi. Nah, jadi kalau kita mau bilang berapa suku yang akan ikut merasakan daya rusak dari ibu kota negara ini, mungkin yang pertama pasti yang asli dari sini ya gitu ya.
As the foundations of Nusantara are laid in their backyards, some indigenous populations wonder if they will have a home here.
Ini katanya Bapak siap-siap untuk kedatangan teman-teman kita dari Pulau Jawa, Sulawesi, Sumatera dan sebagainya, bahkan mancanegara ya. Itu kita siap-siap. Kenapa harus siap-siap itu? Pemerintah siap-siap untuk memperhatikan hidup kami ini dulu. Itu yang kami setuju. Bagaimana kehidupan kami supaya kami tidak tersingkir dari tengah-tengah ibu kota ini. Kami juga ingin ramai.
Tetapi selain hal itu semua juga ada masalah sosial yang dihadapi. Karena proyek ini tiba-tiba tanpa menanyakan kepada orang yang punya tanah atau orang yang punya rumah, akhirnya masyarakat juga bingung tuh. Ini proyek apa ya gitu? Atau IKN ini untuk apa ya?
Around 178,000 people call Penajam Pasir Utara home. But the population will explode from 2024 when 200,000 people are expected to live in Nusantara. Bambang Susantono believes the newcomers can coexist with the locals.
Many of them are the transmigrations people, as already the third generation of them, but they live in harmony with those who are local, quote unquote, that came here before them, right? And I think there is very, very, very minimal conflict that now happening here, and they are live in harmony, and we would like to maintain that one.
But the locals will have to be convinced.
Apa kami tukang jadi obat nyamuk, tukang sapu, tukang cuci piring itu. Itu kalau kami bilang suku kami jauhkan bala kalau kami ditaruh seperti itu. Kami jadikan budak itu. Kami tidak berharap seperti itu. Kami mau pembinaan khusus dari pemerintah itu. Terus terang saja masalah pendidikan SDM sangat terbatas. Nggak mungkin jadi pegawai. Yang dibutuhkan pemerintah S1, S2. Nah sendiri SD saja jarang-jarang lulus.
So there's always this feeling of inequality, injustice by the indigenous or the local community when it comes to the development. And this feeling of injustice later kind of reflected in the hate towards the migrants.
But my worry is really on the kinds of actions that might be taken to prepare for those potential conflicts. There has been cases of repressive actions towards conflicts or potential conflicts that actually leads to even more disparity, even more disempowerment of indigenous communities. Of course, we are being too speculative here because there's nothing being done yet. But this is my worry, actually.
Ethnic tension flares up occasionally in Indonesia, a country of more than 17,000 islands and 500 ethnic groups. Kalimantan itself made headlines over 2 decades ago. Conflict erupted between indigenous groups and migrants from Madura Island off Java. At least 500 people were killed, mostly the Maduris. Many were decapitated as indigenous groups revived headhunting. Thousands fled and never returned. Like many other people in Kalimantan, Juban remembers the tragedy. He is also a Balik community leader.
Kami sudah berbuat baik dengan mereka, misalnya orang-orang pendatang itu, mereka yang ya tidak menghormati kami, itu yang kami tidak mau. Otomatis siapapun dia, siapapun orangnya, kalau tidak cocok dengan kami, supaya tidak itu untuk masalah jadi besar, otomatis bila perlu kamu jangan tinggal di sini, kamu keluar aja dari sana daripada kamu bikin penyakit untuk orang banyak, ya kan?
So, the question of whether Nusantara will be ready must consider the social dimension. But the speed that the Nusantara project was approved has raised questions if the people are sufficiently prepared. The plan was deliberated at Parliament in December 2021 and passed into law a month later.
Pertama pasti udah terburu-buru ya, jadi kita ngelihat ya angka waktu juga penting kan, 42 hari atau hampir 2 bulan dikerjakan itu nggak make sense banget gitu, dan nggak ada proses yang layaknya dalam sebuah pemindahan ibu kota. Dan biasanya kalau negara-negara pindah ibu kota itu ada 2 model referendum. Jadi ada referendum negaranya gitu ya, seluruh penduduknya. Ada referendum yang ketimpaan atau ketempatan jadi ibu kota gitu.
Penentuan perpindahan ini tidak serta-merta mendengarkan apa yang diinginkan oleh masyarakat gitu ya. Sangat tidak partisipatif. Penentuannya dari atas ke bawah. Kemudian yang kedua adalah kita bertanya dananya dari mana. Tepatnya di Maret 2020 pandemi datang. Dan kita masih pada masa pemulihan kok gitu. Sehingga kita meyakini bahwa ngapain uangnya dibuang-buang ya. Uang kita gitu ya, uang masyarakat, uang publik digunakan untuk membangun sesuatu yang tidak pernah ditanyakan urgensinya untuk masyarakat apa.
I can understand the constraint of the government. The time is limited for the current administration to pass the law, right? To make sure that the project is going, they need to pass the legal basis for this project as soon as possible. And if we talk about wider public consultation and also more open and transparent discussion on the legislative or regulation, it will take a long time.
The name Nusantara is also controversial. It has roots in the 14th century Majapahit kingdom to describe the islands outside Java, where it was based. Nusantara is seen as Java-centric.
Even the name is given from Jakarta. So where are the voices of the communities who are actually living there? Those are the people, I think, who are most important to be heard and to be taken into account because it's their land. How would the new capital represent the local communities? The idea of representation here, whose ideas, whose cultures?
The government needs to make sure that the local community, indigenous groups are the main actor in the development. So making sure that their livelihood is protected, their revenue, their asset or their rights are protected is important.
To make sure the locals are not kept out of available opportunities, the government has made building schools a priority in Nusantara, complemented with ongoing educational support.
We are doing a lot of, for example, training, upskilling and reskilling. I don't want them to be the watcher, just watching what is happening here with all the transformation to be a smart and digital society. No, I want them to be part of them. And that's why this afternoon, for example, I opened a training on the coding mom, solar mama, and also coding for this disabled. This is, just an example on how we prepare them, the local community, to be part of the transformation for the digital society in the future.
And yet for others, Nusantara represents opportunity. Toirudin is Marjorie's and lives in Balikpapan, 100 kilometers away. His car rental business has boomed since construction began.
Kalau perusahaan ini kayaknya kayak POPR, otorita, kayak Kemenlu, kayak Pas Pampres. Kita kan ikut pelayanan juga, Pak. Karena kalau Pas Pampres itu kan pasti kekurangan driver lah, Pak ya. Saya turun, Pak, ke lapangan itu, Pak. Kayaknya semenjak ada IKN ini, Pak, semuanya teman-teman di rental ini, Pak, kayak menguntungkan, Pak. Mudah-mudahan tidak ada yang kayak macam-macam begitu lagi, Pak ya. Namanya orang kan suku ini kan sama aja semuanya, Pak ya. Kayaknya sama lah kita. Kayaknya saya lihat itu kayaknya santai-santai semuanya, Pak.
Avoiding social conflicts could be a challenge for the government in the new capital. And then there is the environmental cost of building a new city from scratch. Another busy morning for Juban, tending to his rubber trees, observing the tapping process before the sun gets too hot. The 58-year-old father of 3 owns around 6 hectares of rubber plantations that he inherited from his parents in Pamaluan village. Juban says his farm will be affected by the construction of a 47-kilometer toll road linking Balikpapan with Nusantara. Just like in other areas in Penajam Pasir Utara Regency, the presence of boundary markers puzzle the locals.
Sudah ada pihak dari otorita itu masuk di dalam kawasan kebun kita kan. Mereka mengukur lahan kita, membuat patok tanpa sepengetahuan kita juga sih. Kok tiba-tiba ada patok. Jadi warga-warga kita yang punya kebun itu bertanya-tanya, ini patok apa kan. Belum ada pembicaraan kalau nanti ganti ruginya sekian kita belum tahu itu. Baru kita tahu, oh ini untuk proyek jalan tol. Itu yang tahunya warga kita lah.
Juban says the villagers have not been officially informed by the authorities how the toll road construction will affect their livelihood. But based on his own calculations, the project will affect most of his plantations, leaving him with only 1 hectare.
Itu yang jadi problema kami di sini, Pak. Di samping itu, ke depannya otomatis kalau IKN ini sudah berkembang, kemudian lahan-lahan kami masuk dalam kawasan IKN, kemudian itu diambil. Jadi orang-orang kami yang biasa bekerja di kebun itu kan, mereka bingung mau kerja apa. Kalau lingkungan, kami juga khawatir takutnya kampung kami ini bisa tergeser. Kemudian juga sungai-sungai. Apalagi di atas sana kan lingkungan kawasan HTI. Yang dulunya kita bisa mempergunakan air itu bisa buat konsumsi misalnya minum ya kan. Kalau sekarang kan di atas sana ada kegiatan seperti pemupukan tanaman HTI itu. Nah itu kan larinya kimia-kimia dari hasil-hasil itu kan larinya ke sungai semua, jadi tidak bisa sekarang untuk dikonsumsi.
Nusantara's green vision is grand. It wants to be the most sustainable city in the world. The new capital will be the first Indonesian city to achieve net zero carbon targets. But the road to that dream may be a destructive one. Like Juban, environmentalist groups are concerned that construction has damaged the area's ecology.
Ada satu image yang ditangkap oleh teman-teman aktivis lingkungan ketika proses jalan tol IKN itu tiba-tiba ada mungkin orang utan atau simpanse, jadi primata yang jalan gitu. Saya pikir itu bagus untuk menggambarkan bagaimana ekologi di sana sudah pasti rusak.
Whether this concept of green capital is feasible, we should look at the implementation, how the government strict enforcement about the environmental protection. And this development will certainly affect not only the forest, it will affect the habitats, the wildlife, the animals, and also the community. There's some indigenous community in that area. They all will be affected.
So going back to the question, is there such a thing as a green capital? Because if we start from scratch, that means that we are assuming that the local communities will change its ways of functioning, will change its ways of relating with the environment. And how green would that be?
Indonesia's track record on environmental protection is uninspiring. The country was previously criticized for walking back on its COP26 commitment to stop deforestation by 2030. But the government has promised that Nusantara will not sacrifice the environment. At least 15 million trees will be planted in the city. On paper, only 25% of Indonesia's new capital will be built-up areas. The rest, green spaces.
As you see, the eye of the global audience will be on us, and that's why we have to be very strict with the environment, because we want to have our ESG reputation, environment, social, and governance, right? But I think that we have to really take care of all the environment factors here. Give us a chance to prove that, yes, we really would like to reverse the trend. As you can see here, this is a monoculture production forest, and let's see in the 20 years, for example, whether we can transforming this production forest into tropical forest.
I would say that on paper, everything is possible, and you can actually put all these ideal components of a city on paper. The big question is always in the implementation. So how green can it be? I guess it really depends on how consistent the plan would be. And looking at the track record of cities in Indonesia, whether or not they follow the plan, it doesn't look very promising as of now.
But for mining advocacy group Jatam, focusing on the site of the capital is myopic. The destruction has happened elsewhere. In North Kalimantan, a hydro dam has flooded villages and disrupted the Kayan River. On the island of Sulawesi, sand mining for construction material has damaged hills and the coastal areas.
Akan menggunakan baterai untuk seluruh kendaraan para pegawai misalnya di ibu kota negara yang baru. Baterainya itu akan menggunakan nikel, salah satu bahan bakunya. Nikelnya dari mana? Nikelnya akan diambil dari pulau-pulau kecil yang saat ini sedang berkonflik. Misalnya di Morowali, Sulawesi Tengah. Dan pabrik-pabrik misalnya smelter untuk nikel itu kan dia butuh batu bara. Batu baranya dari mana? Dari Kalimantan Timur. Jadi kalau kita mau bilang dia green city gitu ya, atau forest city yang tidak akan menghancurkan atau merusak lingkungan, dia akan merusak lingkungan di tempat lain gitu.
And then there are some who worry if the city's green image will be in name only, and Nusantara's vaunted green spaces become white elephant.
Ekologis bukan sekedar lingkungan hidup, terus taman indah segala macam, hutan yang baik gitu. tapi juga penting ekologis adalah partisipasi. Nah, dalam konteks green capital atau green city, banyakan gagal juga karena dia jadi ornamen. Barang-barang, pohon, furnitur, street furnitur itu jadi ornamen yang nggak bisa disentuh. Jadi kayak datang ke pameran, kita nggak bisa megang, nggak bisa menikmati.
Whether Nusantara can achieve its green targets will be important. Its eco-friendly image is a draw for investors, as President Jokowi recently touted in Singapore.
A world-class smart city surrounded by nature, green city with 65% forest, first carbon neutral city in Indonesia, which has world-class education and health facilities.
Joe Green is one Singapore-based company that sees the potential of the capital. It produces building materials from recycled waste.
Ini adalah produk dinding panel kami. Ini contoh kecil. Ini lebar adalah 60 cm, tinggi bebas tergantung dari permintaan. Tinggi dindingnya berapa, kami bisa potong sesuai tinggi dindingnya. Jadi sangat customized dan sehingga hemat dari pemborosan, sehingga akan lebih efisien dan lebih ekonomis. Sebagai seorang businessman, Pak ya kami sih melihat satu kesempatan yang sangat baik sekali, di mana ini adalah mega project yang luar biasa dan di mana akan dikenal di seluruh dunia bahwa Indonesia mempunyai ibu kota yang baru yang sangat diimpikan adalah suatu negara yang ibu kota yang ramah lingkungan, Pak. Di mana ini salah satu mungkin di seluruh dunia yang akan diawali di Indonesia.
It is still early days to assess Nusantara's sustainability metrics. But with the emphasis on the city's green credentials, meeting those targets is now a matter of national pride.
The poor track record is always haunting investor before they come to Indonesia. But this is actually, maybe if Indonesia wants to start again, this is the opportunity for Indonesia to showcase that, they are serious, Indonesia is serious about implementing the environmental protection regulation, the enforcement of the sustainability development. I think government needs to put serious attention to enforce the environmental regulation.
We have a game plan for that, and we are supported by many organizations. So with all the international organizations working with us, with a good plan and also a step-by-step consistent implementation, we do hope that, yes, we really means that we want to be a sustainable forest city in the future.
With the big move planned for 2024, what will happen to Jakarta? Sunday morning in Jakarta. It's car-free day. Nearly 7 kilometers of the main road through the city are closed for a few hours for Jakartans to enjoy walking, running or cycling. Victor Hutagalung is one of those enjoying today's sunny weather. He will be among the 200,000 civil servants waiting to be moved to Nusantara, more than 1,000 kilometers away.
Jadi nanti perpindahan ibu kota itu sepertinya akan ada prosesnya ya, nanti ya mungkin nanti kementerian sektoral dulu, kementerian yang vital dulu, nanti baru Kementerian Pertanian. Itu sudah menjadi syarat masuk ya kan, bersedia ditempatkan di mana aja. Tahu saya sih mungkin sekitar kita masuk dalam klaster 3 apa berapa gitu ya.
Victor works for the Ministry of Agriculture. He and his colleagues wonder if Nusantara will be ready for their big move.
Mungkin ya kalau sebagian besar pegawai yang di Jakarta ini kan akan bertransformasi dari pola hidup yang biasanya apa-apa mudah dengan keramaian gitu kan. Nanti akan pindah ke tempat yang ya kita gambaran saya sih belum ada kelihatan tuh gambaran mall aja nggak tahu di mana gitu kan. Yang biasanya nonton, biasanya nongkrong-nongkrong di sini banyak coffee shop, di sana ntar gimana kan. Yang pasti sih akan adaptasi dengan kesunyian ya, sepi paling kali ya.
In contrast to Nusantara, Jakarta is a vibrant, if chaotic city. The metropolis has a nickname, the Big Durian, named for the foul-smelling spiky fruit that people either hate or love. Since independence in 1945, the city grew from a population of 600,000 to 10 million. It now has a population density of 14,000 people per square kilometer, the most crowded city in Indonesia.
Jakarta has collected its bad reputation for being a city of traffic jams and a city of floods. Regular flooding is to be expected in Jakarta, and many would attribute it to its geographical as well as geological condition. And of course, at the same time, all the human interventions that has happened throughout history. In 1994, there was a presidential decree by Suharto. It paved the way for land reclamation for real estate development in the north coast of Jakarta.
As Jakarta grew, it is now literally sinking under its own weight at a rate of between 3 to 10 centimeters a year.
Tapi saya juga ingin membagikan cerita bahwa wilayah pesisir di Indonesia itu sebetulnya menghadapi masalah itu gitu ya. Menurunnya muka tanah akibat eksploitasi air baku gitu ya. Kemudian pembangunan serta tekanan pembangunan gitu ya. Tapi di sisi lain memang menaiknya muka air laut itu dialami oleh wilayah pesisir yang ada di Indonesia.
Suwarno lives with his wife and 4 children in the northern part of Jakarta. He works as a cleaner in a museum. The 55 families living in his neighborhood have experienced more flooding in recent years.
Kalau untuk sekarang kayaknya makin sering. Hampir setiap malam juga sih dia mulai pasang. Kalau untuk sekarang ini banjir laut itu malam dia, Pak. Sekitar jam 7-an, kemungkinan berlanjut lagi nanti besok malamnya pindah lagi, lebih malam lagi. Gitu. Kalau untuk banjir tinggi ya kemungkinan seginilah tingginya. Seukuran 30 cm, 40.
Up to 25% of Jakarta could be submerged by 2050. This is where Nusantara comes in. Ostensibly, the new capital is supposed to relieve the development pressures on Jakarta.
Di tahun-tahun yang sebetulnya Pak Presiden Jokowi juga pernah bilang bahwa Jakarta akan tenggelam. Tapi saya rasa alasan bahwa Jakarta tenggelam itu merupakan narasi yang terlalu naif gitulah untuk jadi alasan ibu kota harus dipindah. Alasan yang terbaik sebetulnya kenapa ibu kota harus dipindah, saya rasa untuk mengurangi, lebih baik ya, mengurangi beban pembangunan yang ada di Jakarta itu satu, sekaligus untuk mendistribusikan sebetulnya pusat pembangunan dari Jawa ke Kalimantan.
The government hopes to move 1.9 million people from Jakarta and elsewhere to the new capital by 2045. But Nusantara's reception is mixed among the residents of Jakarta. For Suwarno, even if he had to raise his floors to avoid the floods, he's still happy to call Jakarta home.
Kalau untuk pindah kayaknya enggak, Pak. Nah, karena kita kan sudah punya rumah di sini, kerjaan di sini. Kalau untuk ke sana juga kita harus memikirkan rumah juga di sana kan gitu. Mikir kerjaan juga. Terus kalau untuk ya pasti modalnya gede juga lah kalau ke sana.
Maria Kasia is a retired journalist who was born in Jakarta 56 years ago. She too has no intention to leave.
Why should I don't like Jakarta? Jakarta is everything for me actually because you are living here, then you have a job here, you have a family here, and then you mingle with everyone here. It's a multi-cultural people living here. That's why I love Jakarta.
Then there are those like businessman Budi Nugroho. He's been running a coffee shop and co-working space for more than 10 years in one of Jakarta's oldest districts. He sees the promise of Nusantara.
Nah, kalau saya menyambutnya sih IKN ini sebagai salah satu peluang besar juga, baik pengusaha UMKM ya, khususnya di bidang kreatif ya, kuliner ya, itu salah satu ini ya, daya tarik lah gitu ya. Kalau saya sih punya pandangan gini, Jakarta, kalau saya pribadi ya, sudah tidak bisa dibenahi dengan berapapun uang yang ada gitu loh. Karena masalahnya bukan cuma masalah ini ya, bukan masalah lingkungan doang gitu, tapi benar-benar udah overload gitu loh, nggak bisa dikembangin lagi, nggak bisa diperbaiki ya.
And this is where critics find a bone of contention. With Jakarta in need of development, some view Nusantara as a waste of resources.
Nah, dana yang digunakan diasumsikan bisa membangun kota untuk kota yang berkelanjutan. Ini yang kalau menurut saya paradoks. Kenapa? Dana itu seharusnya bisa untuk memulihkan kota-kota yang punya masalah. Jakarta, Surabaya, Semarang. Semarang itu juga parah karena sudah mulai banjir gitu. Jadi kota-kota besar di Jawa atau Sumatera itu perlu direhabilitasi, perlu direstorasi. Ini ditinggalkan, dicuekin, terus untuk dibikin satu.
I think government understand that solving Jakarta problem is critical. Building infrastructure in Jakarta, solving the traffic congestion in Jakarta, dealing with the flood, and also improving the waste management in Jakarta, all are important. I think the city government will continue building Jakarta, saving the city from sinking. I don't see any kind of interest from the government or any thought from the government that they will let Jakarta deal with its own problem.
In recent years, efforts have been made to prevent flooding. More public spaces were also built and the transport system was overhauled, including constructing an MRT. And even if the Nusantara project is successful, Jakarta will retain its crown as the country's cultural capital.
We see another country, for example, the US has New York and Washington DC, right? These twin kind of roles of the city will be there. Yeah. So I think that there will be a good division of labor between Jakarta and also Nusantara in the future.
But there is one last important point to consider. This is not the first time Indonesia tried to relocate its capital. In the late 1950s, founding President Sukarno initiated the construction of Palangkaraya city, also in Kalimantan, to supplant Jakarta. When Sukarno was ousted in the mid-60s, the plan was abandoned by the new leadership. Indonesia will hold its presidential election next year. It is shaping up to be a three-cornered contest between Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto, Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo, and former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan. Will President Jokowi's successor abandon his marquee project?
I guess that if Ganjar becomes the president, then this project will be continued under his leadership, and then the PDIP will fully support this project as well. Under Prabowo, the second scenario, I also think that the likelihood of the project to be continued is very high, given Prabowo has some stake in that area. I think he also think that from the nationalist point of view, this is also important to maintain the unity in Indonesia. Under the third scenario, it's a bit unclear. Of course, we know that we have the new law on the new capital, Ibu Kota Nusantara, and every president must implement what the law has already stated. And Pak Anies also as a president will have to follow the law. But in a democratic system like in Indonesia, the law and regulation can always be challenged. But if I can share my prediction, what we can see during that time is Pak Jokowi smiling and proudly present what has been built in Ibu Kota Nusantara. I think what is more important to see is that whether after that ceremony, we can see more private capital come in to the Ibu Kota Nusantara.
Back in Kalimantan, work on the new capital continues day and night. For Bambang at least, he imagines a gleaming new city, a future home for his countrymen.
I want to quote the Shakespeare, what is a city but its people, right? So if we have a good sort of like a city, although it's still small, step by step, and it will be owned by the citizens that feel that it's not only a livable city, but also a lovable city, and that is the target of us in 2024 and beyond.